Happy New Year! Welcome to January 1st, 2021. And these are the 12 winks of art for January in 2021. And even though I'm not going to do a video every day, because I really wanted these 21 winks of art to be inspiration, to be kind of these jumping off points for you and your art, for you to interpret them in any way that you want to do, I'm going to go ahead and show you the power word one that I do. And I think of power word as this word that gets you out of bed. So for years I have taught power words or inspiration, and for probably about 15 years ago when I was teaching summer camps, I always would use this power word activity as kind of a starting point for each of our summer camps. And to me, a power word is that word if imagine you were an Olympic skier or an Olympic skater, something in the cold, because I am very much not about cold. I'm very much about sunshine. But let's imagine that you are this Olympic skater and you have to get up at 3 a.m. in the morning, icy cold, really just takes your breath away. It's so cold outside. You have to get out of bed, you have to get dressed, and you have to go to the rink for a couple hours of practice before school starts. So this is how I always kind of interpreted it to my students in camps. And this word was that word that got you out of bed to go and do that practice. This is that word that represents the eagerness that you have to grow, to get better, to improve, to do your passion. Your power word is the igniter. It is ignition. And that's actually one word that I used one year was ignite. This year, however, I am doing the word energy. And so I've got my huge double page spread here for my 21 winks of January 21. And I'm just going to pick a space, and I kind of want that word to be very focused on my page. And let me go ahead and zoom out so you can kind of see where I'm working. This is my double page spread, and I'm going to choose right in this top right quadrant and do my power word right up there. So let me go ahead and move that around here. Okay, so here's the deal. I recorded this entire power word episode, this entire power word activity for you. So excited because I had my power word and I drew it out nicely and all that. And it wasn't until midnight last night on day one, mind you, New Year's Day, that a student had watched my video and said, a student and a friend, I have to say, she's a great friend, and said, well, you misspelled energy, you missed the G. And I was like, oh my gosh. So day 10, it just so happens that in January, day 10 is oops. So for day 2, I'm going to go ahead and show you my oops. And it kind of goes along the line when I was teaching school. When I was teaching elementary school, and I taught middle school, and I taught high school, and I taught all the different grade levels, and even in college that I teach now. I would walk into the classroom and say, okay, well, I've already made 100 mistakes this morning. And look, I'm still smiling. I'm still here. I'm still ready to give it my all. So, let's go ahead for you guys too. Don't worry about mistakes. We'll just be you and learn and all kinds of stuff and grow and all of that. And so that's kind of how I started my classroom mornings. And this was a perfect example. First day of the new year, first day of the new challenge, first day of the January 21 winks. And actually I had made 2 mistakes. So, many more than that, I'm sure, but 2 that I'm identifying. And you'll see a little ticker that goes along in one of the videos. I can't remember if it's actually before this part or after this part, but I said 12 winks instead of 21 winks. So, there we go. We're only human. And I could very easily just erase all this, start afresh on a new page, but I'm not going to do that because this is real life, and I want you to see what happens with this real life situation. In art, it's no big deal. Nobody's hurt. Nobody is any less valuable because of any kind of mistake that you make, especially in art, because there's no mistakes in art. So obviously I look at this oops as an opportunity to stretch my creative mind and accommodate what occurred. So if you stay tuned for the video that I shot originally for energy, but it's energy because there's no G in it, then after that you will see the segment of how I fix my oops. So here we go. And I'm going to start out with just writing my word in my plain writing, energy. And I am doing it in all caps, not that it needs to be that way. And you see how I'm kind of going a little crazy with some of the curves on there. Oops, I'm kind of off. There we go. How about that? I'm going to come back here and make some kind of craziness. So that's where my word is. Now, obviously my E is going to be a little lost, but that was the starting point for the rest of my writing. So I'm coming in here and I'm going to now be able to enlarge and maybe encapsulate the rest of the word like that. So I've now went from a regular lettering to a kind of a little bit of a crazy lettering, and I am going to widen that out a bit by just adding kind of a triangular serif here at the ends of some of those. And I am going to paint, so I'm going to remember that I'm doing that. Oh, and I could actually do maybe like a point. How about that? An arrow right there. So I've got that beginning here, and then, anything flows, and it's kind of fun to enjoy a lettering that goes with your word. So if your word was a little softer, you might not want these jagged edges that I have on mine. And although you might have some movement in yours, I don't know. It's, it's one of those things that you have to kind of judge. Remember, this is about your word, not about mine. I'm going to cross over into that Y right there, and I'm actually going to pull this out into that kind of serif right there that I was doing. Let's erase that. Do that a little bit differently. Still don't like that. See, sometimes it just takes a little while to get it the way you want. Let me see. I think I want it to come up. Got it come up like that, and then maybe like that. Yeah, I like that a little bit better. Let me fix that line right in there. It's all about what you're feeling in the moment, and it's about what you're feeling in the creation of what you're doing each day. That's almost like a horn right there. I'm not sure I'm going to keep that. And then I'm going to come down here and do that. And then I have my Y. And so my Y actually come up with just a larger. So energy. I feel like that Y needs to have a connection or a drop down, maybe under my R. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that down straight into a point, like that. Let's see. Let me go ahead and do it this way first. Come down like that, and then remember my R was gonna cross over. I like my R to be on top, so just fix that, erase that line right there. Energy. This little part of my Y though feels like he's lost. So let me curve that a bit and open it up. And there we go. Energy, like that, very much. I could even do some kind of energy, maybe some zigzaggy lightning bolts coming off of that space, and maybe zigzag that a little bit. Like that. Okay, so I've got some energy going on there. We might need to go ahead and put some energy up there. I don't know if that really shows a good lightning bolt or not, but there we go. We've got kind of 3 different lightning bolts. This one has to maybe shoot up a little differently. There we go. Okay, so I like that. So now, I know that's a huge part of this page, but I also know that I want this to be a very, very much of a focal point for my month, because it's something that I'm really going to be practicing, not just energy to make things happen, but energy to make me be still a little bit more, because that's really hard for me to do. So I'm going to go ahead and paint that out. I was actually going to do kind of a graffiti blowout around this, but I don't think I'm going to do that. I think I'm just going to paint away a little bit, and of course I always have to have some purple going on. So, and I'm going to do my R first. I haven't decided if I'm going to do the whole word the same color, but you know, R for Rochelle, and I tend to always do my R's in my purple. And you can see it got a little darker because of the water that was saturated in that cake pan. I picked up an area that was a little darker. I had just been doing something else, so my paint is already all ready to roll. Just kind of filling that in and going up in the darkness a little bit again. I also like to not just start at a hard space. I like to always move and glide smoothly into new spaces. So I started a space that I may have already had some paint in, like you just saw me doing there. So I like that. R is really sticking out. And I'll tell you what, I think my energy is going to all be purple. All right, and there is energy, my energy, that is my power word that is going to guide me into my next phase. I don't actually look at it as a word to begin a new year, a new calendar year, because I choose power words at different times in any calendar, in any time of the year, just when I need to feel like I need a reboot or a freshened look at something. And so it just happened that my power word, I just felt it over the holidays. Like, you know what? I'm gonna kind of reboot with this word energy, and it's really going to help me to be more focused, more directed on my path professionally, but also give me more energy for personal, which is it's just one of the things that I have a little trouble with is kind of chilling. And you can have, very soft energy that's almost dormant sometimes, and I'm really going to focus in on that too. I did want to point out one of the things that I did that you may have seen in the video, and I know it was sped up a bit, is that I layer my colors. Years and years, and yes, I had to say years ago, fresh out of college, I was the manager, one of the area managers at a big department store, and I was over some of the clothing departments, but I was also over the cosmetics. And one of the things that I learned when I went to all the cosmetic conventions was about layering your fragrances. You come out of the shower and you put on a body cream and then a lotion and then maybe a perfume or something like that. And you might have 3 or 4 products that have the same fragrance on it, and that is called layering your fragrances. So ever since then, I was probably maybe 22 or 23 when I had that job when I first started. Ever since then, I always think of watercolors and my art in the same way, is that if I can layer colors using different materials, different instruments of art, then I would have more of an intense response or an intense outcome. So here on these lightning bolts, I started out with 3 different shades of watercolor. I did my dark purple that was the same as my energy color. I did a lighter purple, and then I did a fuchsia, and I worked those in together in each of these lightning bolts. And so this is my Durant Inktense pencil, and it's the fuchsia color. And so I outlined the lightning bolts with that pencil, and when you use those pencils and you add water to them, then they flow very much like a watercolor. So I added my water to them. They flowed into it. The lines flowed into my lightning bolts. And then after that, I went back with my fuchsia, my lighter purple, and my deeper purple, and did those lightning bolts again. And I really like the way that looks. Okay, so here we are on the oops part. Obviously, I wrote enery instead of energy. So what I'm going to do is, to the best of my ability, fix my little error here and just go with it. Because again, this is all about my creativity. It's about, obviously can't find the right pencil that I want, but it is about really just stretching our creative souls, and let's just see what happens. I have looked at this for a minute or so, but I really wanted it to be as off the cuff as possible. So let's see what happens. Okay, so I have a number 2B pencil, which is that black pencil, and my Y is going to turn into a very kind of squared off G. And it's going to be, yes, a little funky, but you know what? That's okay. I like funky. I'm going to pull this into here and maybe narrow and then come out with this thing. And I think I'm just going to round this ever so slightly. So if the lightning bolts are going to turn into the Y. So I'm actually not sure if I do want to round this or not. Let me see. I might round this just a little bit. come out this way like that. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and then attempt to make my Y, and it's coming off my page now, so that's okay. My Y is going to be up like this. You know, a lot of times when oops happen, it's a calling to make something work in a different way. And you know what? It's the first of the new year. We're going to go ahead and say, well, that's what was meant to be. Okay, so energy is going to come right down from here, and that's going to be my crazy energy. I wonder if this part doesn't work, what I might do is just widen it out to be this really long kind of Y. And I'm not going to be able to tell that until I get in there and start to paint. So let's go ahead and start with this one, at least, the G, and get my paints activated. I want to go ahead and erase this little line right here though. Okay. And you know, you never know when you might like something better because of the oops that happened. And we're going to see how that works. I'm going to try to make that look like the G is going behind the R. And you know what? Also, it honestly doesn't matter. As long as I know what the word is, I think it's pretty it's pretty ironic because I'm doing the word energy, and here I'm talking about, you know, even energy in a calm state and chilling out, and you know, all of those things that I talked about. And here I have to exert this energy to make this look a little bit more well, to fix my oops. And so there we go. You know, I just put in the pencil to kind of guide me, and now I am, you know, that could pass off for a G, right? And I think I'm going to have to do a little fix to all the letters shortly, and I'll show you why in a minute. But now I'm going to go ahead and work on this part. Remember, this was a combination of 3 different shades. There's 2 purples in here, a fuchsia, and then they're all blended together. So let's see what happens as we play around with that. Something told me yesterday not to do the graffiti style, and the graffiti explosion style, which means that I would have had lines kind of mimicking the shape of my letters. And if I had done that, I would not have been able to come in and fix it like this. So here's the other way that you can fix, and I really did not want to do this. I wanted to show you how you can actually, you know, come in and alter things and just make them look a little bit crazy or different than you would have normally. Look, it looks like a lightning bolt, but it is the Y, and that's pretty cool. I like that, actually. I think it's pretty cool. Okay, so I'm going to widen this out just a little bit and come into there, and then maybe come into there. Anyways, the other way you could fix something like this is actually just to cut a piece of watercolor paper, do your new word on it, and then glue that paper in your journal. But you know, and that's definitely a way to fix an oops. But I really like the idea of going with what was presented. I'm going to kind of come off of here a little bit and do another lightning bolt. Because it's true. I mean, I made that oops, and now I'm fixing that oops in a very creative, much more creative way than I had anticipated having this look. And I think that's kind of neat. Okay, so there is my energy with the bolt of lightning coming down and coming into there, and there is the Y. Kind of cool, right? It's a little different. Energy. Okay, so the way that I am actually going to do a little bit of fixing is to, well, you know what I was going to do? I was going to put some white in some of these areas, and I'm not sure if that has dried enough to put that white in there. Just to kind of where they mix a little bit. Or maybe even, I could play around with some color. This was a different purple. Just coming in and playing around with it a little bit. Energy. Let's see. Energy. Well, I have it spelled right now. So you know what I'm kind of contemplating is bringing in some of this fuchsia in some of these other places. Okay. So it moves some fuchsia into this look too. Get this in here. It definitely has more energy with that fuchsia in it, doesn't it? Just pulling it in some areas here. Blending it in with the colors that are already there. Huh. And you know, it also gives the example that, you know, I gave you 21 winks, but it doesn't mean that you have to do those in that order. Obviously, my 21 winks, my number 10, my oops. This is a perfect oops, actually. Before I wrote oops, I wrote fix an art oops, and I was like, no, that's too specific. And that might be something that I just show in a video, and here you go. Okay, so energy. So what I kind of like about this actually, and the wacky G, is the craziness that is coming off of it. So I might actually do this kind of lightning bolt thing in other places. And speaking of other places, this N has like a really good place to come off and shoot a lightning bolt. Energy. I know, I say it, and here I am, an English teacher. I'm going to blame that on my brain because my brain is still recovering from surgery. And this is actually a pretty good example of what happens a good bit. I'm still having trouble reading some words, and I'm still having trouble grasping words when I'm talking some like very obvious words. And obviously looking at words and not realizing, I mean, I looked at this thing for hours on end and still didn't see it. Okay, so there's that energy, and then I'm going to come up here and maybe do a little bit coming out too. Lightning bolts they're noticeable because, that they're a lightning bolt because of their stark angles. And I know that we usually signify them with like 2 or 3 bolts, I guess you would say, bolts out. But I kind of like, I like the difference of how they're. I like that. Actually, I like it a lot better because it has a little bit more intrigue and movement here. So, I could pull it off in different. I don't want to do too many, but this one seems like it needs to have something a little off on it. And sometimes that's just how things happen, No master plan. It's just the way it happens. So there you go. My oops made a bonus learning opportunity. And I'm going with it. Energy. I want to put a little bit more dark in there. Alrighty. Energy. That looks a little bit better. That looks more like the word energy. And I really like the way it came out that way. I know, and I'm sitting here and I want to tweak it a little bit more. I think I'm going to make this guy a little bit more pronounced. A little bit bigger so that G doesn't look like it's, bigger. That G and that Y don't look so, don't get so much attention. Although, but see, look, that's pretty cool. Oh, goodness. It makes me happy when things work. when the oops works, I should say. I like that. All right, so I really like that. The only thing that is really not doing much is the E. And I think what I'm going to do is pull this E out just a little bit and make it have some bolts kind of come that way. Fill up that space. Okay, so when it's time for you to do your oops, I don't expect you to make an art mistake on purpose and then fix it. The oops doesn't have to be about art. The oops can be about anything. Something as easy to express that you picked the wrong paint color for a house or for a piece of furniture or for a carpet. Or it can be that, a mistake that you made that maybe cost you, I don't know, cost you some kind of grief over a long period of time and you had to remedy it or something like that. So that is, that's how you can look at that. It can be something different. Okay, I'm going to come up here. So see, I started and now I really like the way that it's kind of branching off. And I'm going with it. And I got carried away, didn't I? But look at all of that energy coming out in all these different ways. God, goodness, I really like that. And sometimes this is a really good example too. When I teach art journaling and I tell people, sometimes I go back years later and add to a page. I don't ever think that my pages are done because I'm always changing. And even though they're great representations of where I am at that moment, I love to go back and maybe do some altering and adding because that's still part of me. I don't hesitate to change those responses or alter. I don't ever take away. I just add. So here you go. That word has been added to, the next day, and I think it's kind of a nifty way to look at that. Something fun. Definitely got bigger. So the interesting thing that is one of the things that I'm still not crazy about, and I kind of hesitated yesterday after I did it, I wasn't too crazy about it, is the arrow seems a little bit too structured compared to what I was going for. So I'm going to just kind of make that arrow not an arrow. Kind of this bold, different explosion of things coming out in different ways. Energy radiating. And maybe even having a double. Let's see what that does. And now what I've done is I've gone back and I'm using the 3 colors again, the 2 shades of purple and that fuchsia. I really like that. Okay, so this is then this one has to be, I'm going to change that one too. Kind of like it's growing. I don't want to go through my R though. My R is my favorite letter. Kind of cool, right? Ha! And all because this G was missing. So now I need to kind of come off of this G a little bit. Craziness, right? So, okay, so one more thing that I see, that this is now a little too structured. So that is going to have to grow in a different way. Starting to branch out like a tree. Forgetting what I'm doing. Okay. Energy. That, my friends, makes me happy. Oh, what a way to start the new year, right? But we got an oops, and we fixed the oops, and maybe my power word should have been oops, but I actually think energy fits the bill really well for this. Anyways, this is it. This is me. This is natural. You just saw an authentic representation of what happens behind the scenes. And I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate you coming along for the ride. And I hope, if nothing else happens with this video, I hope that it inspires you to take the cues from what happens authentically in your journey and go with it and just see where it takes you, because you might be pleasantly surprised. Thanks so much. I'll see you again very soon.